how will the oil and gas money be spent in the next years? That's the real test for climate finance in the next years. I'm Cornillie. I'm Research Associate at the School of Transnational Governance, and I'm working in the EIB Climate Chair team. And we thought that investment in renewable energy and clean energy technologies was on a roll. But actually it turns out it's on a roller coaster. Because in 2021, we saw record amount of investment into renewable energy deployment. The International Energy Agency calculated that $1.2 trillion were invested into renewable energy, and more than 50 billion of venture capital was going into clean energy innovations. So these were record numbers, and we thought this will continue in the next years. And then for 2022, we expect the oil and gas companies to make $2 trillion of additional dollars on the back of the high energy prices that households and industries are paying all over the world. So the real question is now, how will this money be spent? How will the oil and gas mayors spend their $2 trillion of extra revenues that they will get from this year's energy crisis? Because if we want any chance to get to net zero by 2050, and if we want to hit the targets that governments, the European Union, companies have set for themselves by 2030, this question is of the essence. Because we cannot forgo this huge amount of investment money that is becoming available. And so there's a number of tests here. Some are technological, like, what will happen to hydrogen? Is hydrogen finally going to make it? There's some tests on the corporate level. Will the oil and gas companies stick to their own commitments? And there's also a test on how the sustainable finance rules that the European Union and governments all over the world have put in will finally push towards the reallocation of capital to green investments. And so those are three tests. So let's take them down one by one. First, the corporates. The oil and gas companies themselves have committed to net zero. Shell, BP, they've said that their ambition, their goal as a company is to be net zero by 2050. Other companies like Total or Chevron or ExxonMobil, they have defined ambitious for greenhouse gas emission reductions for their own assets, but also for their clients who are using their fossil fuel products. So they have themselves put corporate goals. So the question is now, will they get there? And obviously, the money they are receiving right now on the back of these high energy prices will be very important. So how will they spend it? Will they spend it on new oil and gas infrastructure? Or will they spend it on electrification, on renewable energy, on green molecules? And that's where the second test comes in. Because, by now, everyone can put in a solar farm, a wind farm. That's become standard technology, and renewable energy investments have become really a normal industrial operation. But obviously, there's some missing links. And one of the missing links between this renewable energy and the technologies and the fuels needed for decarbonization of industry and hard-to-abate sectors like maritime and so forth is the hydrogen. So hydrogen seems like a bit of a hype. You cannot go to a conference or a panel or have a discussion with hydrogen not being part of that conversation. So will hydrogen make it in the next years? Will we see a breakthrough in terms of scale up, in terms of cost competitiveness that we have also seen with solar and wind and batteries, which is fueling the EV car revolution? And so we are really seeing some major developments, some gigawatt scale developments being announced, but will they also get funded now? And will the scale really bring the cost down? Those are the questions that are of essence. And obviously, hydrogen is closer to home for oil and gas investors than, say, electricity. Electricity is a whole different energy system, whereas creating a fuel, a molecule which is decarbonized and which could replace some of the current fossil fuels, that's obviously a very attractive business proposition where oil and gas experts, oil and gas investors can understand and can build and apply their knowledge to. And so that's really where we expect major developments. And we really hope to see in the next years that the renewable hydrogen or clean hydrogen developments are being kickstarted and get funded, get past financial close. And I think that the oil and gas money will be very important and crucial in that. And then the third test is more on a government level, from the policy side, because we've set sustainable finance rules. And sustainable finance rules basically do two things. One, they define what sustainability is. And there's taxonomies, of which the most advanced and the most detailed one is the European taxonomy on sustainable investments. And it defines sustainability as achieving major environmental objectives like climate change mitigation, greenhouse gas reduction, like adaptation, biodiversity, and so forth, without having a substantial negative impact on other environmental sustainability objectives. So there's a definition, there's a framework for saying what is sustainable. But then the second question, obviously, is, well, how sustainable are these investments? And also for that, a set of rules have been defined for financial market participants to screen their investments and show that when they say this is a sustainable investment, it can be verified that this is also true, or that corporates that are making net zero commitments are also held to their commitment, and you can verify that they are actually setting steps and progressing towards this net zero goal. So that's what sustainable finance rules do, defining what is sustainability and screening how sustainable the investments actually are. Now, that's obviously a framework of rules. That's a set of rules that it doesn't mandate or it doesn't force companies to invest sustainably. So the jury now is out in the next years. Will this oil and gas money find its way to sustainable investments under the pressure of shareholders? And we've seen some really strong shareholder action also in oil and gas companies, under the pressure of consumers that want to invest their money, financial consumers that want to invest their money into sustainable investments, and so are relocating their capital from the financial consumer side, or by rules, governments, policies that actually force oil and gas companies to reinvest their additional revenue of these high energy prices into sustainable investments. And the banks, the major European, US banks that finance oil and gas operations can also play an important role in it, because also they are under a set of rules and commitments to get to net zero. So you see that these rules could give a push, give a framework in which to screen whether these investments are sustainable or not. But the big question, or the big test, is now, can it also force or keep the pressure on reallocation of capital from the fossil fuel industry to the renewable and clean tech and low carbon industries? And so these are, for me, the three tests of the future. The corporate commitments of oil and gas majors, the hydrogen as a technology that could bridge the gap between the renewables and the fuels business, and thirdly, the sustainable finance rules, which can help defining what is sustainable, but can they also force investments, push investments towards sustainability, towards low carbon technologies and investments. And with these three tests, we'll see in the next years how the oil and gas money that they got from these high energy prices in this year will be spent.